Hey everyone, Sarah the Catholic Homemaker here. Today I want to talk about 5 reasons you should make sourdough bread. First of all, if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And if you've already subscribed, I thank you so much for doing so. But I would really love to grow this community even more. And I would love it if you'd hit that like button. It gives people a chance to see my video more. And also hit the notification bell for all notifications so you will see when I post. Okay, reason number 1, you should make sourdough bread or make a sourdough starter and sourdough recipes. Self-reliancy. It helps you to be more self-reliant and less dependent on the grocery store or other places. If this pandemic has taught us anything at all, it is that we should be more reliant on ourselves. And I have heard stories of early on in the pandemic, people were looking for yeast at the stores and they weren't able to find it because it was all sold out and people just were buying it up and then it wasn't left for the majority of people. So a lot of people started making sourdough as a result because they may have been people who are used to baking their own goods like bread or other pastries and things that require yeast. And so the great thing about sourdough is that you do not have to use a yeast packet. You're using the wild yeast from around your environment. And once you have that good sourdough starter established, you're good to go. As long as you continue to feed it. If you have it on the counter, you have to feed it once every day. But if you have it in the refrigerator, you can get away with just once a week. So that's what I've been doing with ours, is I've been leaving it in the refrigerator and feeding it about once a week or sometimes more frequently if I want to make other baked goods. But if you follow me on Instagram, I am the Catholic Homemaker on Instagram. And I have been including my journey on sourdough on there, and I will try to make a saved story of all of my progress and everything I've done with sourdough at home, so that you can see it. And eventually I'm hoping to come out with a sourdough starter video, just days 1 through 7. So anyone who wants to start one from scratch like I did, you can see how to do it very easily via video. The second reason you should make sourdough is it's not as difficult as you may imagine. I didn't do it for years. I've been wanting to try a sourdough starter or use sourdough for years. I've been seeing people on Instagram. I just know some friends of mine in the real community who have been doing it for years, and I was thinking I'm never gonna learn this, or it's gonna be later in life when I learn it, when my kids are older or grown up, where I can take on the time for this. But I was very surprised when I actually finally tackled the project that it was easier than I thought. I will say it is not easy, but it isn't hard like people might imagine either. Especially once you have that starter established. It's when you are first having to make the starter that it can be more difficult, because you have to know that you're supposed to throw half of the mixture out and keep feeding it equal parts water and flour every single day. But once you get to that established, mature starter, a lot of the recipes can be easy. And I will give a shout out to the YouTube channel Farmhouse and Boone. She is the one who really truly inspired me to start this. If it weren't for watching some of her videos, and I actually got a link to her blog post for sourdough pizza, and that just inspired me, because all it was simply heating up a cast iron pan or a pizza skillet in the oven, pizza stone in the oven, and as long as it's superheated, you just pour the sourdough starter right on like an oiled pan, and that is your pizza dough. And I was like, wow, I've made so many different pizza doughs over the years. I've made it with whole wheat bread before. I was kind of on a roll with making it every single Saturday, but with yeast. And it was it wasn't super hard compared to other recipes I've made, but it was involved. And there's plenty of other gluten-free recipes that I've tried, including with cassava flour, and none of them were that easy. And sometimes the dough wasn't very easy to work with. So I just thought that pizza is always going to be hard until I saw that recipe. And I was like very inspired to start making sourdough. So shout out to her channel. I'll link it below for you guys. And even making sourdough bread was surprisingly easy compared to what I thought, because the first time I ever made sourdough bread, I made it in Switzerland when I was on the Weston A. Price tour, and we made rye sourdough bread. And it was very, very difficult. Now granted, we were making it by hand, so I was completely hand kneading everything, and I had never done it before. I didn't know what the consistency was supposed to be like, so if I wasn't having our instructor right there with me, I would have completely messed it up. And my bread wasn't even that pretty either. It was fine, but it was like, it wasn't anything nice compared to the instructors or other people in the class who were a little more experienced than me. It was really nice, and I was like, I'd like to do this someday, but I was like, this is too intimidating. So I love that her recipe for whole wheat flour, she doesn't explicitly say to use your stand mixer, but I decided that I would put the ingredients in my stand mixer, and it actually turned out great. I documented that on Instagram too, and it was pretty much a hands-off recipe because my mixer did the work for me. And I was thinking the bread was going to be the hardest recipe to try. And actually the biscuits were harder to try, and because I was using my hands to cut the butter into the dough, into the flour. And that actually can be made in your mixer too. So I'm just like truly inspired to continue with sourdough, and knowing how wonderful it tastes, just the depth of flavor and just how good it is for me, knowing how easy it is, I am not going to go back to the store bread. And it is just, it gives me like a self-confidence boost. So I just hopefully can pass that confidence on to you guys as well, to let you know that it's not as hard as you might think. And you just kind of gotta experiment with it too. Once you experiment, you'll get more confident. The third reason you should try it is you can control the ingredients in your baking. Most store breads are really unhealthy and they have no good nutritional value in them. There's very few breads out there that I could actually recommend to you. There's one sprouted bread at Aldi that I can find. I was very shocked, but most stores you just can't find good bread at all. Number 4 is we have a connection to our past and to our ancestors. So the original wheat is called einkorn wheat. If you weren't aware, there's different types of wheat, and they're all descended originally from the einkorn wheat. And some people have coined the term the Jesus wheat because that is the wheat that Jesus would have eaten. And sometimes I like to think about what Jesus and his apostles may have eaten back in the day, 2,000 years ago. And one thing we can say pretty much for certain is that he was eating sourdough bread, because they didn't have little yeast packets they could get from the store. They were using like the wild yeast from their environment. So that's pretty interesting to think about, and it's just something that our ancestors would have done. Number 5 is that it's the healthiest bread you can possibly eat, because there are even reports of gluten intolerant people, and I would not recommend this personally to people who are celiacs, but I have heard, like, in a laboratory controlled environment, that sourdough bread has been made and been given to celiacs, and they have been able to tolerate it without getting any sort of reaction. So that's very interesting. But again, I would not recommend that personally to celiacs because it probably depends on the individual, and it might be something you want to work with your doctor or practitioner on, but you may need to go through some healing before you even try it. But most of the phytic acid will have been removed from the grain. Phytic acid is an anti-nutrient found in grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, or legumes, nuts and seeds. And phytic acid binds to certain minerals in your body. It's iron, calcium, magnesium, and zinc. And it makes it very hard for your body to absorb those nutrients, especially when you're eating a lot of grains, those other plant foods that have not been properly prepared or soaked, sour, leavened, or sprouted. So doing those three things, soaking, sprouting, or sour leavening like sourdough bread, it makes those plant foods much healthier. It unlocks those nutrients, and we are better able to digest it. So people with digestive problems, who have problems with grains, may be able to tolerate sourdough bread. I hope you have found this video to be helpful, and I would love to hear from you in the comments if you have ever made sourdough or if you're looking forward to trying it. Just let me know. It is really wonderful tasting, and I have a piece of sourdough bread I made from last night, and I slathered it in butter. I'm gonna take a bite. There's just nothing like it. So I hope this video has been encouraging to you. Until next time, bye, and God bless you and your family.